Hey, another Charlie reaction. He dropped 2 videos in the past few days about Stranger Things. This one is the Is Stranger Things finale good? I've already made a couple of videos talking about this, but I hold his opinion in high regard, so I'm interested to see where we agree or disagree with one another.
Series finale just aired. 10 years, 5 seasons. The journey is now concluded. I didn't make a review after Volume 2 dropped. I made one after Volume 1. I had a hot take people didn't quite like, perhaps a little too spicy. I thought it was a pretty underwhelming start. Volume 2 rolls around,
he means
and people
volume,
are singing a little bit of a...
For the releases for the final season. Okay. I thought he meant season 2. And I was like, damn, that's a long time, like, to not make comments or something.
Different tune there. I thought it was even weaker than Volume 1.
Oh,
Since
no.
Aired,
Volume 2 is without a doubt weaker than Volume 1, for sure. I mean, Volume 1, you know, it gets the excuse of the first episode kind of catching you back up after the time skip, and then it gets to play around with, like, oh, what is the season gonna develop into? And then episode 4, The Sorcerer, was better than any moment in the rest of the season. Probably. I think it is. I think it's very close between that and Henry having to face his past, like that memory in the mine shaft. I thought that was poetic, beautiful, it was awesome. It gave us some pretty cool context. But let's be okay. Rule of cool. Will psychically like puppet dolling 3 Demogorgons was it was just awesome. So yeah, without a doubt, Volume 1 was stronger than Volume 2. Not that the whole volume is particularly strong compared to different stretches within the whole series, but for sure for Season 5.
Encompassing review of the Stranger Things Season 5. So with Volume 2, I thought it introduced even more ass pulls.
Fair.
So now all of a sudden, Mama Wheeler is a superhero. She like instantly overcomes her injuries.
That did bother me, where I'm like, because the whole season only took place like over 3 days or something, right? Yeah, I'm pretty sure, like it's basically 3 days. So she almost had all the blood that's like supposed to be in her body. Yeah, all of that was almost out of her body, like 18 hours before she does this. Like, I love Mama Wheeler, don't get me wrong, but I think that it was a poor decision because it comes across as lazy to just have her do it. Like, she already had her girl boss moment. She already overcame the injuries that she sustained in order to communicate what happened to Mike and Nancy. So it's like she didn't need another moment that is her being a badass again, especially when she really couldn't even walk. You know, she was very unstable. I think she had like what was it? Was she carrying her IV around or something? Like the rolling stand that the IV hook is on. I think she had that. And then a wheelchair for Max, but not for her. It's like, bro, you couldn't have brought two wheelchairs. What the fuck?
By the Demogorgon dogs, the Demo dogs.
I was glad to see Demo dogs
Lucas,
again, though.
And Max are in a laundry room in the hospital after the Demo dogs have annihilated some soldiers. And while there, he is still playing Kate Bush to try and help Max back to the corporeal realm. And as they're taking cover by a washing machine, the Demo dogs are scouring the area. It's 3 of them. And they're looking around as slow as possible. They're moving slower than I would if you fed me fucking 15 shots of absinthe. Like, it is unbelievable how slow they're moving. Robin even makes a mention to Lucas, like, hey, turn off that fucking Kate Bush. We gotta pipe down here real quick or we're gonna die. And he's like, nope. So he doesn't. The Kate Bush is still playing. Somehow this doesn't alert the dogs in any way, shape, or form to their location. Maybe they're huge
but
Kate
what's
Bush
weird
fans
about that is that it followed them into the sub-level. And I don't think it was really explained how. Like, Will was captured, and Vecna was using him as a spy, quote, one last time. And I interpreted that to mean that he was just going to go into Will's mind to see where Max's physical body was, so that he could send the demo dogs to go kill it. The physical body, right? So yeah, how did they know to follow them down to the basement where they were going to try to get out? They couldn't get out, and that's where they kind of get cornered. But it's like, how did they know to go there? And if they have some other sense or something that we didn't really see, that like a tracker or something like that, then why did they get into the dead end of like the laundromat room, and then they're just like kind of slow walking and milling around? Like, if they have a track on Max, how would they not know? Like, how is it that they could be 6 floors up and know that they went into the basement, but not be in the same room with them and know that she's 15 feet over there? That was kind of weird.
Want to interrupt the track, or maybe they're completely deaf. But as the dogs get closer, that's when Mama Wheeler pops in, because she had actually booby-trapped one of the washing machines. She put an explosive in there, and as the washing machine starts, all 3 dogs all of a sudden get alerted to it, I'm guessing by sound, so they're not fully deaf, and then they're just watching the washing machine complete its cycle with the explosive in there, blows up, kills all 3. Mama Wheeler saves the day. And literally, like 2 episodes ago, we just saw that she can't really move and she literally can't speak. But in this episode, not only can she move and speak, but she's like the fucking Terminator and even has a full conversation about how she needs to get her daughter back. So I guess she has Wolverine's healing factor now, I suppose.
Well, no, she actually does.
That's just indicative
she actually
of my
does.
main
She does
complaint
have Wolverine's healing factor because, you know, when we see her at the graduation scene, she's got the scars and everything. That are showing like ropey scars where the claws almost killed her. And then when they're doing the D&D wrap up down in the basement of the Wheeler house, they have you know, she opens the door at the top of the stairs and she yells down at them, and you can clearly see that the scars are gone. So yeah, she does have a healing factor. I don't know why my avatar's blinking so much. Dust in my eye? So she actually does. So get wrecked.
Season where everything just happens with no real explanation for how that's even possible for it to be happening in that way. Everything is just so fucking convenient, and there is such a complete disregard for stakes anymore because everyone is basically immortal. We're going to be getting into spoilers here for the finale now, so big spoiler warning. I thought for sure in the finale this is where it was going to get dark, like they had hinted at so many times about it was going to be like
they didn't
dark
hint, they straight up
Christmas
told us. Like, season 5 is going to be, they definitely said grittiest and darkest, and then maybe they said revealing as well. Like, you know, they basically said, you're not going to have any questions, which I think we have more questions after the finale than we did before.
Stranger Things, that kind of thing. And still, even in the finale, nobody dies except for one character they brought back, which was Elle's sister, who we hadn't seen since season 2 in the most hated episode in the entire fucking history of the series, basically. Well, second only to the conclusion of Volume 2, I suppose. So a character we don't know, can't really care about, who had very little screen time in the season, is the one they decided to kill as the emotional moment. But there was just a complete reluctance here from the writers to actually kill off characters that would have made sense to kill off in that moment for like a whole completed character arc, and to remind the audience that this is an intense situation. This is, you know, life or death scenarios. It's been Junior.
It's tricky for them because, you know, on the one hand you have different fandoms that are like, you know, they have their favorite character. Like I am fully convinced that like if, for example, they had killed Steve, there would have been riots. Like, they would be getting doxxed, they would be in trouble, right? But the whole show was really trying to balance the darkness with that nostalgia, kids on an adventure kind of a feel. And you know, up until Billy, like, obviously Will went through a lot, right? He got kidnapped, he was infected with mind flayer particles and stuff. But in terms of like death and like gruesomeness, apart from like the victims of like the first Demogorgon serial killer deal, and the people in season 3 that were made into the like flesh blob thing, the young cast, or the young group, really didn't directly experience a whole lot, right? Like, they were sheltered in that beginning period to a degree, right? Like, they weren't dealing with stuff like Nancy or Jonathan or even Steve were doing, or when Hopper was in prison, right? Like, those were more of the dark adult themed violence happening kind of a deal. Like, the stakes felt more real in that sense. And then with the kids, it was that dark, mysterious, like, they were the ones who were figuring things out, and they were the ones like kind of driving the heart of the story forward, right? Especially, you know, Mike and Elle, and then Dustin with his all the clever stuff, and then, you know, Will kind of doing stuff, Lucas existing. So, but like, I don't know. You didn't have to kill people off to make it a satisfying ending, but just the realism factor was gone, where everybody, like, the fact that even Ted Wheeler didn't die, like, Ted Wheeler didn't die, Karen Wheeler didn't die, the Turnbows probably starved to death because nobody ever went back and like released them, or at least we never saw them get released from the barn. So yeah, like the stakes aspect of it, it just didn't, like, at no point did I feel worried for any characters. Like, I don't think there was a single point where I was like, oh no, this person's gonna die. Like, and that's even like with Hopper, when he is going through the high security door that they think Vecna's behind. It was like, at that point, I already had guessed. I'm like, there's no way Vecna's there. Like, if this is like a false trail. Like, there's no way. So I was like, yeah, that means he's definitely not going to kill himself. And then when they did the fake out with Steve, at no point did I think that he was going to die. I actually felt insulted that they tried to trick us. And then when the Demogorgons were chasing people, like Hopper being stuck in the Upside Down, I didn't think he was going to die. When the Demogorgons were chasing Murray and Robin in the box truck trying to get the kids away, I didn't think that they were going to die. It didn't sell the realism and like the real the feel of real consequences. And that's not the worst thing in the world, as long as the story can still end in a satisfying way for everybody involved, right? Like, you don't have to kill Steve, you don't have to kill Jonathan, and they still managed to resolve the like love triangle, right? Where at least my interpretation of the like last scene with them, with all the like older kids, was, you know, they're moving on with their lives, they're going to try to stay connected, but just some of the looks shared between Jonathan and Nancy kind of left the door open a little bit for them getting back together later, right? And I think that Steve, in his explanation to Jonathan of like, no, like I knew that we weren't gonna, that wasn't like a real chance because of our differences in what they want out of life. And I thought that one is really mature of Steve. So it kind of bothered me that he seems to be back to just womanizing, where it's like, what? Well, he was so mature in that moment, but you know, I guess it's okay. But you know, he wants the 6 little nuggets, and she doesn't know what she wants, and definitely not 6 nuggets, and she wouldn't have called them nuggets. So yeah, I feel like most of the issues stemming from nobody dying is that it's so unrealistic, but then we still didn't get, like, it's a fantasy, right, that everybody survived. Well, basically everybody survived. So it's like, well, if it's a fantasy, then why can't we have perfect endings for everybody? And that didn't happen.
Previous seasons, they had no problem doing that. You know, killing off Eddie in last season, for example. I thought they executed that very well. It was emotional. But in this season, they almost kind of make his death a joke. Like, it really feels worthless because the Upside Down is no longer a scary enemy in and of itself. The Upside Down is basically just going to the park, except it's dark and cloudy. That's it. Those bats that annihilated Eddie, that he sacrificed himself trying to save everyone with those bats.
I didn't rewatch the scene, but I'm pretty sure that we literally see every single one of those drop. Like, they all fall from the sky once. I think it must be when they attacked Vecna, you know, and they shot him with the shotgun, they lit him on fire, he fell out of the window. So I kind of wonder if it's the hive mind thing, but then you're like, why didn't it kill the demo dogs? Why didn't it kill the demogorgons? When they're killing the demogorgons, how come it didn't hurt Vecna? Like, or maybe it did and we just didn't see it. Like, it's the inconsistency for me that bothers me, where the hive mind aspect, like, did it hurt Will to do the Vecna curse deal on the 3 demogorgons? I don't think so. Like, he didn't act like that hurt him, but if he's connected to the hive mind, which is how he's even using Henry's powers, it's like he should have, I don't know.
Not even here. They don't exist anymore. I guess the bats were so impressed with his courage that they all killed themselves. I mean, you could make a leap saying, like, the military went in and wiped them all out. Maybe, I guess. That's not something they showed. Or you could talk about, like, Vecna's pseudo-defeat, maybe having all the bats go extinct. I guess, maybe. But even still, that choice to no longer have, like, actual enemies or terror in the Upside Down takes so much wind out of its sails. You could literally just fucking spring break there, and they spend most of the season doing
like,
that.
That's what I said, where it's like, they just treat it like a blasé thing now, and for everything up to that point, it was like, do not go there unless we have, like, a solid plan, because you're gonna die. Like, that's how it was treated all throughout the show, and then this season it's just like, oh, I'm gonna drive my BMW with, you know, no provisions, totally unprepared. We're just gonna drive through the hole in the grain silo. I was so mad. Or annoyed. I wasn't mad.
I just don't like how afraid they were to kill off characters, or even really put them in scenarios of peril where you thought they might die. There was only like 1 or 2 moments where I thought, oh, this character's gonna die here, and then they didn't. And I don't want this to get twisted, because you don't have to have characters dying left and right in order to make it a compelling emotional story. But Stranger Things, across 4 seasons, did use that as a very effective tool in this universe. So to have it all of a sudden no longer be present in any way, shape, or form, it feels underwhelming, especially for what's supposed to be the gloves coming off final season finale that we've been building to for a fucking decade. And it just felt so easy for them to do exactly what they wanted, everything falling exactly how they needed it to according to plan.
I haven't seen many people complain about Dustin finding, like, the holy grail of an instruction manual on how to finish out the season with Dr. Brenner's journal. Like, that to me was like one of those, oh, how convenient. Like, it just seemed lazy, I guess. You know, like they could have had something like Brenner in his dying moments, or like slip something into L's like pocket when they were fleeing the lab, the Nevada lab. so that they knew, oh, go to the lab, go find his notebook, and everything's going to be explained. Like, that would have made it more sense where it's like, okay, we got to deal with this stuff, and then at some point we've got to get to the Hawkins lab so that we can, you know, figure out what Papa left behind. But they didn't do that.
And if things were a little cattywampus, out of whack, it was like that to fix it. It just felt so simple for them. So I just leave feeling underwhelmed. Now, of course, everyone was talking about and making fun of Volume 2's final episode with Will, you know, taking control of Vecna and turning his head, saying, "Run," that kind of thing.
I didn't know.
And also, the
Did
Will
people not
coming out
like that?
scene.
Were people making fun of that? Oh, I that didn't bother me. I thought it was kind of cool. But yeah, the coming out scene, you know, that kind of overshadowed anything else with that episode, I think.
A lot of people were clowning on that for being like, you know, not very great, especially compared to how they handled similar subject matter in the previous season, where they turned it into like a basically Avengers in-game moment, or like Lord of the Rings and My Axe, that kind of thing. It does just feel like season 5 felt very rushed in its writing, where they knew what points they wanted to hit, and they kind of just threw caution to the wind to getting to those points in the plot. Like the Mind Flayer being brought back into the fold. I actually like that explanation for how the Mind Flayer played into Vecna and how they were basically, you know, in this symbiotic relationship with one another. You know, Mind Flayer maybe controlling Vecna, but actually not really. Vecna, Henry, he agreed with everything he was shown there, and they are one entity. Very cool, considering we were all led to believe that it was Henry controlling the Mind Flayer. I thought that was cool. We get a little bit of Henry's backstory, which was alright. I didn't love his backstory all that much, but it was decent. What I did really like was the explanation for what the Upside Down
that's
is.
cool. But the whole Henry backstory, the thing that really frustrates me is that apparently that is explained in a Broadway play, like their Broadway musical, and it's like, why are you putting integral, like, core memory moments for important characters in a Broadway play, and not even like even if they just had like a short animated, like, standalone episode explaining like the plot of the play, where I don't know it fully, but you know, Dr. Brenner's dad was apparently doing stuff, and then the guy that was in the cave that Henry tried to help, he was a double agent, or maybe he was just a scientist, but he was going to sell that rock to the Soviets, and then obviously he was hurt, and then Henry just happened to be there, and from our perspective, if you've only seen the show, it's so random and it's so out of nowhere, and you're just like, okay, like, who was that guy? And also, how did he say you have to resist it, it will consume everything, after he should have looked like the Viper? He should have looked like Oberyn Martell after the mountain popped his head like a grape. You know what I mean?
Being a wormhole, I thought that was great. I thought that was a very cool explanation, and it did add a lot to the finale, where it's like his plan is to merge the Abyss, which is where, you know, Henry was blasted, you know, banished to the fucking Shadow Realm in the back room, sent him there, and then that wormhole ties into L's origins.
But I don't...
And now that connects...
I don't think we know how Henry moved between the Abyss. Like, was he always just kind of hanging out in the Upside Down? And then only in season 5 he went up into the Abyss? Right? Because from what we see, you know, from Holly when she goes through and she falls like half a mile or something crazy. So like, how did he get down? I don't know.
This and Hawkins, and the plan is to bring the Abyss and merge it with our dimension, our world, and they have to stop that. I thought that was all very cool. I really liked that. Like, I don't think it was all bad or anything like that. There are some things I liked. I thought there were even some great moments in the season, but on the whole, it just feels like a lot of it was super rushed, and overall I find it to be the weakest season in the franchise, and being the series finale, the final season, that just leaves me feeling a little underwhelmed. All I'm saying, just a little disappointing, because like some characters that we had watched for 4 seasons prior barely had anything to do in this season. For example, Joyce and Jonathan, it feels like they're not even related anymore. I don't think there is a single moment in this season where Joyce and Jonathan even spoke to each other in anything that resembles, like, you know, love or family. Whereas before, that was a very fleshed out relationship, and now all of a sudden they're fucking strangers to one another. They just
like,
brought in so many
compare the
characters.
emotional connection between them to season 2, when they're trying to get the mind flayer particles. They're trying to burn it out of Will, and just the emotional tension involved in that was 1,000 times more than anything that we saw between them in season 5.
Into the fold, that some of them that we had followed for a decade just didn't have a whole lot to do and just didn't do fucking anything, really. And one of the main characters in season 5, Holly, is a character that had nothing to do for the previous 4 seasons, but now has more screen time than I think any other individual character from the main cast. So that's just kind of like a weird decision to make, where now all of a sudden you're bringing in yet another character in an already jam-packed series of characters that now we're spending most of the time with, and kind of sidelining the others, putting them on the bench. Just, it felt like an odd direction to take it. I don't think Holly was like a bad character, and the arc she goes on with being kidnapped by Henry and everything, I thought was a pretty compelling piece to this season. But I also don't think it necessitated that much screen time and that much focus, which was taken away from the rest of the crew, who then, when we see them, they've basically solved all the problems and are in position now to execute their plan, and you're left wondering, well, how the fuck did we even get to this point? You know what I mean?
Actually, 100% I agree. I kind of wonder if they had a bit of ADHD brain when it came to Holly. Like, when they decided that they wanted her to get taken and kind of have that subplot happen with Mr. What's-It and going into Camazotz, I wonder if, because, you know, a big thing when the first volume dropped that you know, people were talking about was how good she was, and the process of recasting, finding her. And so I wonder if the Duffer Brothers were just like so enamored with her in a way, and just with her acting or screen presence, or just working with her maybe, that they ended up giving her more screen time, you know, where you're like, ooh, shiny new thing, versus like, oh, I need to take care of my other stuff too. I kind of wonder. I agree. I liked that whole plot line. I thought it was really well done, but yeah, I think it took too much time that otherwise should have been spent developing, or at least paying just better care and attention to the people who we've known for, you know, 4 or 5 seasons now. And it really just, in hindsight, you're like, yeah, that was a lot of screen time. Like, that's probably the most screen time any individual character has gotten in any season of Stranger Things.
They're kind of like my broad strokes impressions of season 5 as a whole, but I want to talk specifically now about the finale, because I liked the finale much more than most of the episodes of this season. But that's not to say it's perfect, and I want to get the complaints on the finale out of the way right now. The biggest complaint I have is just how easy it was to defeat the Mind Flayer.
I saw, it was either early today or last night, somebody counted the amount of time that it took them to defeat Vecna and the Mind Flayer, and it was like 9 minutes and like 38 seconds, or like 40 something seconds. And they counted the start to finish of the coming out scene from episode 7, and it was like 12 seconds longer. So it was like 9 minutes and like 54 seconds. So they literally spent more screen time doing the whole Will coming out to the group. They spent more time on that than they did actually combating and defeating Vecna and the Mind Flayer.
They look like actual chumps. You build this up, these two big bad entities, for so long, and we've seen them be somewhat defeated in the past, but now we see them in like prime shape. This is them at their most powerful, and they are easily disposed of. Especially the Mind Flayer.
That makes no sense.
Very cool looking enemy in the Abyss. They make the Mind Flayer look hype as fuck. But the Mind Flayer is defeated by the team deciding we need one person to be bait, which is Nancy, who has become basically like a G.I. Joe super soldier. She's killed like a bunch of people now. She's an elite marksman killing everyone, so she's going to be the bait to shoot the Mind Flayer and have it chase her to a cliffside where the rest of the team is going to ambush it. And they come up with this plan while they are being cornered and chased by the Mind Flayer, meaning that they only have like maybe a minute at most, but more than likely like 45 seconds to somehow have Nancy be bait for the Mind Flayer without getting caught, this giant creature, and the rest of the crew is going to scale an entire mountainside, get to the top in like a minute, and then start like peppering it from up there. Break. And then they do it.
They basically climb, I don't know, it's somewhere between like 4 to 6 stories tall of like a sheer cliff, and it just happens. Like they all run off together, and then it cuts and does some other stuff, and then it comes back and they're already up there, and you're just like, okay, how did that happen?
Nancy outruns it, gets to the entrance to the cliffside. Everyone's already on top. I guess
teleported.
They fucking teleported it up there, or maybe they had really great climbing gear or free climbed it extremely fast. But they're all
maybe
up
there
at
was
the
a
very
ladder.
tippy
We
top.
don't know.
They're all Molotov cocktails and flamethrowers at the Mind Flayer. Mind Flayer just eats it, just fucking tanking it like, oh, ow, ow, ow. It doesn't like fight back. It doesn't have any special moves or anything that it uses. Dustin and Steve go under and start fucking
that was the worst
jabbing
part.
It with their spears. And that's how they're able to stop the Mind Flayer. While inside 11 is in a psychic battle with Henry, Vecna, and it's very easy for her to beat him. Because, of course, there is a hive mind, so as they're hurting the Mind Flayer, Henry's getting hurt too, but I don't know, it just felt like extremely easy. Like, very easy. She just kind of, like, ragdolls him a couple times, and then, like, he fights back a little bit, kinda, and then he pushes him onto a spike with the help of Will, who's, like, impeding his ability to fight back super well, but I don't know, man. You build up for all this, and then it's that easy to defeat them. It just, I don't know, it just, like I said, feels just a little underwhelming is all.
Yeah,
and my
that would
other
be
big
like
complaint is
the Return of the King when they're at the Black Gate to try to distract Sauron's eye. If, when Aragorn rides up to the mouth of Sauron and he just, like, cuts his head off. And, it's meant to be kind of this, like, shock, but it also was like, oh, here's this next big bad guy. Like, what is he gonna do? And then it was just, oh, no, Aragorn handled it, we're fine. It would be like if that was the actual Sauron, right? Where you just have all that build up and all of that, ooh, the Dark Lord, and ooh, he's gonna spread the malice and whatever, and then Aragorn just beats him in literally like a single stroke. Like that's more akin to like how this felt, with just how easy it was to defeat them.
Military here, they're just like the evil presence that wants to just make more psychic soldiers, so they want to kidnap El, and that's all they really care about. So after they saved the day, prevent the Abyss from crashing through, as they're escaping, the military was aware of their plan because they were able to, intercept the others, put it all together. They ambushed them. Big burp, huge belch. And
now that I'm
ambushing
thinking
them,
about it
that's where
too, with the creation of super soldiers, they didn't really explain why Henry was unique, right? Where, he was the, like, what were his abilities innate, and then the Mind Flayer just, like, kind of unlocked his potential. So are all the kids, all the number children, do they have bits of the Mind Flayer in them? Like, what is it about Henry's blood that made it viable to pass on? Like, where we saw Kali couldn't do that, her blood was toxic, right? So what was the special relationship or the special conditions of his blood that let him be different and be like a vessel? Is it because he was the original vessel of the Mind Flayer? But then does that mean all of the psychic powers and everything, it all comes from the Mind Flayer, or does it all come from Henry?
Makes like the heroic sacrifice. And then fast forward 18 months, the military's completely left Hawkins, and all of the characters are back to life as normal. Excuse me? Nancy herself mowed down like 6 soldiers we saw, like from the top of a truck. She just kills like 6 dudes. Hopper killed probably like fucking 40 of them. Like, a lot of soldiers died as a result of our team here that we follow. And I mean like directly
no question.
Killed by them. Shot. Murdered. Like, not an accident where like a piece of debris fell on them. I mean like deliberately they were killed by them. And yet the military just lets them go. I was shocked to see that. I thought there'd be like an explanation where like, in order to prevent the secrets.
Well, yeah, like they escape court-martial or like revenge from the military, and then Hopper, who's legally dead and has been a missing person for like 3.5 years at this point, just like shows up again, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm still the sheriff, right? And they're like, yeah, you're still the sheriff.
Let them go, sworn to secrecy or something? No, nothing like that. Even after losing so many soldiers, even after a multi-billion-dollar plan here with the psychic program and all of this military personnel that is now dead, all of the destroyed equipment, everything ruined, the military still just lets them go.
Yeah.
What the fuck? I was so confused. But again, that's what I'm saying. It just feels like a lot of it's just for the sake of convenience with no real explanation.
He put it really well earlier, where he said it feels like they just lined out all of the plot points that they needed to hit, and then they were like, okay, what's the easiest way to get to this point? What's the easiest way to get to this point? What's the easiest way to get to this point?
Crazy to me that after all of that, they just immediately like release them. There's not even a mention of them like spending time in jail or something and reaching some kind of deal. They're just instantly free to go. Like after Elle sacrificed herself, I guess Dr. K was like, well, time's up. And then just said, all right, hey, scram. We're going to go ahead and leave now. Nothing more to be done here. Unless I missed something, but I don't think I did. And even if I did, I really can't think of any explanation where they'd be like, oh yeah, all those soldiers you killed and everything that you've done here that was highly illegal that led to so much death and so much destruction. We're okay with that. We're just gonna leave and
makes
let
no
bygones
sense.
be bygones. That was weird. That was just weird. Is all. And I don't want to harp too much on the negatives because, like I said, there were a lot of things I liked about it. But man, come on, for the final fight, it is over in less than 10 minutes and not a single Demogorgon.
Oh,
like you're fighting on their home turf.
Yep.
Not a single bat, not a single Demogorgon.
So
it's just
the
Vecna,
Duffer
just
Brothers
Mind Flayer.
explained this away in the dumbest way possible, which was that there weren't Demogorgons or Demodogs or bats because it was a lack of imagination from Henry. Henry couldn't even fathom the possibility of needing to have guards basically stationed in the abyss to help protect the kids and the Mind Flayer. That's it. That's why there's no Demogorgons, no Demodogs, no nothing. It's just that Henry was like, oh, there's no way they're ever going to figure out, where I am and how to get here. And that makes sense. Like, I don't think that's surprising. Like, who would expect them to be able to, cross the bridge and do whatever? But it's like, if they're not there, if they're not in the abyss, then why is the Upside Down completely empty? Like, why is there nothing there? Are they on vacation? Like, is there like a beachfront somewhere in the abyss, just far away, and they all went on vacation or something? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
They just get fucking slammed. They get their hams steamed instantly by the team here. Like, come on. It just felt like such a weak final fight. Like, it wasn't climactic. Like, the actual death of Vecna, I thought they did great. Like, after he's defeated, everything that happened after he died, I thought was solid. Basically, everything once Vecna died, and, well, excluding the stuff with the military, I thought was handled well. Like, I love Joyce being the one to deliver the final blow to Vecna. I love seeing...
So I like it in the sense that it's the protective motherhood kind of thing. And from her perspective, she's like, oh, this is the guy responsible for Will disappearing in season 1, for being infected in season 2, for being... So there's a lot of frustration there. It's just, I don't understand why they tried to tease her play from high school if they're never going to reveal to Joyce or to Hopper, like, oh, hey, this was your underclassman way back when. Like, I feel like once they showed that, it built an expectation of a reveal later, and we just never got it.
Awful Vecna was to the cast.
That
Every
was good.
traumatic experience they went through,
Yep.
having a flashback to it, having seen all of these
With every
horrible,
strike.
irredeemable things that Henry was responsible for before Joyce delivering the final blow, I thought they nailed. But not having like a real, like, you know, intense final fight just weakens that experience. And to have the Abyss, this new area, this new planet that we are told is the home turf where all the Demogorgon, bats, all the nasty evil shit lives. This is their home turf. You're expecting it to be salty spittoon, crazy, scary. But then you get there, all of our heroes get there, it is completely empty. A barren wasteland.
It's
more empty
safer
than
than the
a fucking
Upside Down.
Blockbuster. Not a single iota of life to be found outside of them instantly going to Vecna and the Mind Flayer. There is nothing else there that impedes them on their journey. It just feels super rushed. Now I want to get to some of the things I liked here about the final episode. As I said, post Vecna death, I really liked how they handled the characters and where they went from there. The epilogue I actually thought was solid, though I do think it dragged quite a bit. I feel like they killed Vecna pretty early on, and then it was like an hour worth of epilogue, so maybe that was a bit much. But I think overall, they did a good job handling the end of these characters in Hawkins and what that looks like.
My one complaint about that, or contention against what he just said, is that if you're going to have an hour-long epilogue after the big bads are defeated, and they even said that it was inspired, like, oh, the end of Return of the King, you know, that kind of a feeling where it's like you don't have questions because you get to kind of see the trajectory everyone gets set on. It's like, I'm okay with that, but then you have to actually follow through on it. But like Vicky was introduced last season, but we never really got to meet her, know her, anything. We get to see her, meet her, see her interact with Robin this season. She actually becomes like a character, and then she's not even mentioned in the epilogue, right? And where was Murray in the epilogue? Like we don't know. Did he just like go back you know, did he just leave? Is he gone? I don't think we saw him, did we? And then, yeah, I mean, I feel like if you're gonna have that much time dedicated to the epilogue, it's like you have to stick the landing. And I think they stuck 80% of it.
So seeing, you know, Dustin being valedictorian and giving a really inspirational speech to everyone about, you know, the chaotic good, tying it into Dungeons and Dragons, which, you know, is part of the show's DNA.
Paying homage to Eddie, doing exactly what Eddie said he was going to do when he expected to graduate.
That great. I thought it was a really good speech. Dustin then moving on to become big bookworm, but still, you know, making time to see his best buddy Steve.
Oh, that was the other one. Susie. What happened between him and Susie? Like, she wasn't even talked about. And like, I don't know. I thought that was kind of weird too.
You know, Lucas and Max, them just, you know, falling deeper in love over time, having their happily ever after. Will moving to a new area, finding more friends, finding a partner, being accepted. Mike wanting to use his talent for storytelling in order to share, you know, the heroic journey of his friends and his party and what that means in the context of like D&D storytelling. It ending with him watching Holly and her friends now playing D&D in that basement, because now he and his friends have grown up. Now it's the next generation's turn. Like, I do think they did a good job with the epilogue. Steve, Robin, Jonathan, Nancy, where all they ended up at, 18 months after everything, where they have their own jobs, their own lives, but they want to make times to still see each other because they're never going to find friends like what they have. But they also don't want to be in Hawkins anymore. You have Joyce and Hopper looking to start fresh, move. He gets a new job, proposes, they're getting married. Like, it's all very touching. I think they did a good job with the emotional beats to wrap up the characters. Now it's time to yap about the big twist with Elle. So, as the military is ambushing them, trying to take Elle after they've saved the world, so that way they can get their psychic program off the ground, seems like, that's checkmate. And then Elle somehow was able to escape their clutches, and she sacrifices herself.
I won't comment too much on this just because I'm already going long, and I have made like a 45-minute video explaining this.
In front of everyone. That moment was then undercut with a big twist when Mike revealed that he actually had a theory that wasn't Elle. That was an illusion from Elle's sister. With Elle's sister's dying breath, she made the illusion of Elle getting swallowed by the wormhole's collapse. That way everyone, including her friends, including her father, Hopper, believed she was dead, so that way she could go live a peaceful life off the grid, away from any threats of the military. So Elle is still alive. That's his theory. And it's an interesting idea.
I don't
as
think
a
it's
twist. However,
his theory so much as it is the story he's choosing to believe, because he only mentions that, like, we only see that after he and Hopper have their little heart-to-heart. So yeah.
However, in Mike's own theory, he even says, how was she able to, cast that final spell while being suppressed? Because when they were being captured by the military, they had the psychic suppression system activated, meaning she can't use her powers. The entire season has showed she cannot use her powers, and even in, like, the big reveal moment, she is struggling to escape, not using her powers or anything at all as she leaves. However, there's a huge fucking plot hole here where Elle was somehow able to drag Mike into
It's not actually
the
a plot
void.
hole if you believe that she died. Or if you believe that was the real Elle, it's not actually a plot hole. Watch my video.
To have their final goodbye and their final kiss. How was Elle able to do that while being suppressed by this military equipment? Like, I guess you could say while she was escaping, she got far enough away that it stopped being effective on her, but I don't think she had enough time to do that. So there's like a glaring plot hole that they even point out, like, how did she cast a spell while being suppressed? That doesn't make sense. And then, when giving the explanation for how that was possible, they still had her use her powers through the suppression, with Mike being pulled into Elle's mind with her. That's still her using her ability, right? Through the suppression system. So, like, there's still question marks for how that would be possible.
And something that I didn't mention in my breakdown of the fate of 11 is also that, like, different uses of her powers require different amounts of energy and cause her to fatigue quicker. And the easiest form of power that we see her use is doing the void connection with people in her direct proximity. It's very taxing for her, and she needs an immersive tank, like, to do it long distance, like astral projection. But I think that in terms of strain, it would be like, oh, can I overcome this barrier? And can I cast, like, in D&D, like, a cantrip that doesn't have any vocal components, doesn't have any material components, right? So is it more likely that you could cast a, like, prestidigitation, or cast, like, minor invisibility, right? And if you look at that, it's like, oh, maybe you could also kind of just sneak power through. I think that's probably possible, but also when she's standing at the gate, she isn't being affected. You can clearly see she is not in pain. She's not falling down on the ground. Earlier in that episode, when she and Kali are in the hallway and the helicopter turns on its sonar, they both immediately like clutch their ears, they scream, they fall down, right? So if the L standing at the gate is the real L, it's just because like the cone of the sonar things, they aren't pointed at her.
Mike's theory, like, it does sound plausible if you forget about the suppression system being active at the time. Like, I'm sure Hop would have told him about Callie's death, so this would be something that he could start to, like, rationalize as maybe they had this secret plan together. The twist as an idea, I think, is cool.
Both of them actually completely rely on Kali being alive, so I think that there's a greater than 90% chance that when Hopper was gone getting bandages, when he came back in, they had already agreed to a plan and tricked him into thinking that Kali was already dead.
Makes sense with, Hopper's speech being so emotional and having Callie hear that, her wanting to maybe do something to save Elle's life so that way she can go live the life that, she's always wanted and always deserved, being able to live peaceful, happy, that kind of thing. But I don't think they were able to really pull it off in a way that makes sense, because you just have to, like, forget how things have already been established in order for this to work. Also, the lab blew up like way before Elle was taken away, and that's where Callie was in Mike's theory, projecting this illusion of Elle. So when it blew up, that should have also fucking evaporated the illusion too, because Callie would have died there way before Elle did, yet the illusion was still there, persistent.
True.
So like there's just multiple things about it. Like,
it blew up like just a handful of seconds before Elle steps back through the gate, right? Because it's the detonation of the C4 that causes the exotic matter to basically collapse. And the C4, we literally see, because I thought so too, but when you go back and look, the C4 did no structural damage to the building whatsoever. And then we don't know how the exotic matter interacts with people, right? Because as we saw with Nancy and Jonathan, when they thought they were going to die in the room, and then they had the not proposal deal, they at no point did they start melting, right? Like the walls melted, the ceiling melted, whatever, but it never affected them. It never affected Steve or Dustin, right? And so from that, we can assume that the soldiers that they saw that were dead were soldiers who were in the fluid when it rehardened, and then they literally starved to death, which is actually really fucked up when you think about it. So the exotic matter doesn't seem to directly affect humans. So when that thing did the, explosion and then implosion, that might not have affected her at all. And then as Dustin talked about when he was examining Brenner's notes, and we see it, that it shoots out like a flat wave where Hawkins' lab is this epicenter, and it goes out and then it cuts the bridge. And that's where everything is getting pulled out from the middle, or from the edges working inward toward the middle. So Hawkins' lab is actually the last thing that gets destroyed by getting pulled apart and pulled out into the nothingness, right? Into the vacuum of extra-dimensional space. So it actually is entirely possible that Kali actually, weirdly enough, lived longer than Elle did, right? Because Elle is further toward the edge of the bridge, of the upside down, which means that as it's disintegrating from the outside in, she would actually have been pulled away before the deterioration reached the Hawkins lab.
This theory that don't really work when you stop to think about it. Now, there is an explanation I've seen people say that I think kind of
Oh, shit.
makes sense here, that it's a coping mechanism
that's
for
what I
Mike.
think.
This is how he's going to accept what happened and move on, by making up this happily ever after for Elle, even though it's not the reality of it. I think that makes a little more sense, where that didn't happen. That is just, you know, a story that he's telling that brings him and the rest of the party comfort, believing Elle is out there having her happily ever after as well. But the reality is, she did sacrifice herself.
There's enough
there in
evidence
that
on both
moment.
sides. I think that you can make an argument for both. I personally find the evidence for her sacrificing herself to be a little bit stronger and less like shaky, you know, less untenable.
I think that makes more sense, that this is just his story. This is what he chooses to believe, as opposed to being what actually happened. Just my overall impressions of the season are that it felt rushed, and a lot of things about it I just don't think worked, and kind of betrayed what they had set up for 4 seasons worth of build-up
agree.
and emotional stakes and weight. And their reluctance to like kill any characters, I do think, was to the detriment of the season, and I really just don't understand why they kept like pretending that this was going to be like the darkest season ever. I hope you're ready to have a fucking sad Christmas with volume 2 coming around and all that. Like, I don't get that. Maybe just the big bait and switch or something, because it really is like the truest happily ever after I've ever seen to a show, to a degree where in some cases it literally just doesn't even make sense how they were able to pull it out of their ass that the characters survive. So, I won't yab about it too much. It's already been like fucking 20 minutes. It wasn't a bad finale by any means. Like, I do think there were quite a few things to like about it. But the season as a whole, I think, is definitely the weakest. I think they really wanted to wrap this up, and so they kind of speed ran a lot of things with it, which just is a little disappointing. Anyway, though, that's really about it. So,
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think it's as bad as what... Like, some people are trying to compare it to Game of Thrones, like Season 8. First off, how dare you? How dare you? No, Game of Thrones Season 8 is immortalized in my mind, and it probably will be for the foreseeable future, of, like, the textbook what not to do, because there were almost no redeemable elements, and none of it made sense. Like, it was terrible. Like, this was a solid 7. Somewhere between, like, a 7 and a 7.5. There was enough good in there. The visuals were great. Like, the CGI was fantastic. And, yeah, overall, I mean, it does feel rushed, and I wish that they could have taken their time a little bit better. But overall, no, it wasn't like it's not up there with Game of Thrones. Like, come on, guys. But anyway, that was Charlie. That was Penguin Zero. Yeah, he's huge. So you're more likely to have already seen this than to see mine. So if you haven't, go drop him a like, subscribe. He's really great. He's very well spoken, very rational, and he doesn't ramble, kind of like how I do. So yeah, I appreciate it, and I'll see you guys on the next one.